By nightfall, the question was everywhere. Was this the beginning of a thaw, or the last polite nod before the door shuts for good? Headlines buzzed, timelines lit up, and every analyst started gaming out the next move. Not because of a speech, not because of a statement, because of a meeting that barely lasted the length of a sitcom episode. And that's where the real story starts. Rewind a few hours. Two dark SUVs glide through the gates at Clarence House, one after the other. First the king, then Harry. No balcony wave, no orchestrated photo line. Just doors closing, engines cooling, and a city holding its breath. It was the first time they'd been in the same room in well over a year. You could feel the weight of that silence before a single word was said. The gap didn't happen overnight. It widened in chapters. In 2020, Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties and stepped into a storm. The Oprah sit-down, the Spotify show, the Netflix series, the memoir. Each release pulled the rope tighter. Each headline carved the canyon deeper. By February 5th, 2024, when Buckingham Palace publicly confirmed the king's cancer diagnosis, the family had settled into a pattern. Distance, brief messages, then more distance. Since then, the calendar stayed blank. No walkabouts together, no Christmas optics, just parallel lives and increasingly separate narratives. So when Harry touched down on September 8th for the Well Child Awards, an organization he's supported since 2007, it didn't take long for the whispers to start. Would he reach out? Would the king say yes? And if they sat down, was it reconciliation or reconnaissance? The answer came quickly. A car at 5:20 p.m. A door. No flashbulbs. Just enough footage to prove it happened, and too little detail to calm anyone's curiosity. What does a 30-minute meeting signal inside a house built on ritual? It suggests parameters, guardrails, a chance to test the temperature without burning the room down. You don't schedule half an hour for catharsis. You schedule half an hour to see if conversation is even possible. That alone made this encounter feel different. Not warm, not soft, but intentional. Notice who stayed away. William. The heir apparent was nearby, but not in the room. No corridor handshake. No drop-in. No performative unity shot. Reports claim he had no plans to join, which tells you his line remains where it's been for months. Firm. In his view, the institution isn't a revolving door, it's a pledge. And pledges don't bend because the cameras do. For the king, the stakes cut in two directions. He's managing treatment and a crown at the same time, which forces every hour to do double duty. Legacy on one side, family on the other. And yes, cancer can rearrange a person's priorities. It can harden conviction. It can soften edges. In his case, the choice to open that door reads like both. A sovereign guarding the system, and a father making space, narrow, supervised space, for a conversation that needed to happen. This wasn't a hallway embrace. It was structured, controlled. No briefing notes leaked. No officious sources promising hugs or breakthroughs. Just the quiet choreography of a meeting that everyone knew would be watched, measured, and replayed frame by frame. Harry arrived alone. No Meghan, no entourage, no friendly cameras. For someone who has often framed the institution as a pressure chamber, stepping back inside took nerve, or necessity. Either way, he went in. And that mattered. If you're looking for signs in the footage, you'll find what you want. Harry's face set. The king composed. No smile that could be screenshotted into forgiveness. No glare that could be memified into feud. The absence of expression became its own message. This wasn't theater. It was a threshold. Cross it or don't. But no one's performing for you tonight. Why does 30 minutes feel seismic? Because of what came before. Years of interviews, chapters, and claims that turned private conversations into public currency. Because of that, the family's test is simple. Can a discussion stay inside the walls where it was spoken? Rumors suggest courtiers wanted proof of discretion before any larger bridge could be built. Not grand gestures, not a public reset, just silence, the disciplined kind. Keep this meeting off the record, and maybe there's something to talk about. Break that rule, and the drawbridge goes back up. From Harry's side, another test. Does his father actually want to mend the breach? Or does he want to manage the optics of an ailing monarch making a reasonable effort? The king's calendar has tightened since treatment began. Every engagement carries meaning now. Agreeing to see his younger son, especially with no cameras in the room, signaled a choice, not a surrender. A choice to check whether there's any rope left that isn't frayed to dust. The unavoidable third point in this triangle is William. If he is the future's patience is minimal. He watched a decade of headlines turn family business into a streaming category. He watched duty become content, and content become leverage. He has no incentive to play mediator. Not now, not with the succession narrative to protect and the daily machine to run. And so the brothers stayed on different maps, separated by a few miles and 1,000 miles at once. Here's the uncomfortable heart of it. Harry didn't just leave. He narrated his exit in detail and at length. He named names. He drew lines. He recast the palace as an engine that runs on briefing wars and cold calculations. Whether you believe him or not, that story is out there forever. Which is why this meeting could never be about a simple come back or be forgiven. It could only be about defining what contact looks like from this point forward, limited, private, and contingent on trust. That has to be rebuilt sentence by sentence. Add the context we know. The palace announcement about the king's illness on February 5, 2024 was sparse, short, clinical, protective. No medical play-by-play since. No running commentary. That approach has a cost in rumor and a benefit in dignity. It also explains the tight seal around this meeting. The fewer words, the fewer wounds. So, what's next? If the room held even a sliver of progress, you'll see it not in statements, but in scheduling. A quiet coffee the next time diaries align. A private phone call that doesn't leak. Maybe, if trust holds, a brief family moment at a low-stakes event, without microphones nearby. If it went badly, you'll see the opposite. Parallel tracks again. Work, tours, causes, no intersecting lines. The silence after the Range Rover pulls away will tell you everything it can. It's tempting to script a sentimental arc here. A frail king, a contrite son, a bridge rebuilt in a single evening. That's not this story. This is the story of two men who know exactly what the other has said about them, choosing to sit in a room anyway. Of a monarchy that prizes control, allowing in the one family member who detonated that control in prime time. Of a father who, for all the mythology wrapped around his role, is still looking at a finite timeline and asking what can be salvaged. And then there's the public. The same public that once cheered the soldier prince and lined streets for his wedding. The same public that streamed his series, bought his book, and then moved on. Indifference is its own verdict. If the king is sensitive to anything beyond the calendar, it's that drift. The monarchy survives on relevance and restraint. This meeting attempted both. Relevant enough to matter, restrained enough not to blow up the week. Look at the practicalities. 30 minutes means no grand bargain, no airing of every grievance from Sandringham to Santa Barbara. It means bullet points, boundaries, a few key sentences that either land or don't. It means a father setting conditions and a son deciding whether he can accept them. If those conditions include privacy, then the next 24 hours become their own referendum. No leaks? Door stays cracked. Even one pal close to the couple chirping to a tabloid? Back to zero. There's also the question of motive. Was Harry seeking warmth, or was he seeking clarity? Does he want a path back into the fold, even partially? Or does he want closure that doesn't require another memoir chapter to explain? Only he knows. But his choice to arrive under the radar, without the usual media choreography, spoke to a new calculation. Less noise, more room to maneuver. For the king, motive is simpler. Protect the institution. Protect the calendar. Protect whatever family peace can be protected in the hours left over. That means no staged reconciliation photos and no public scolding. It means a measured door, opened and closed on time. And William? He's the constant, the crown in waiting, who cannot afford a gamble that ends in another broadcast confession. His posture tells you the terms: respect the machine, or keep your distance. In that light, his absence was an answer, not a snub. So we end where we began, with consequence. Not the cinematic kind, no embraces on palace steps, but the quiet kind that decides whether phones ring again. The meeting happened. No press release, no curated portrait. Just a clock, a room, and two men carrying more history than either can set down. If you're looking for an outcome, you won't find it in a headline. You'll find it in what doesn't get said next. Because here's the final pivot. The family doesn't need another quote. It needs a pause. If Harry keeps this meeting sealed, if the king feels that seal hold, then perhaps there's a narrow road ahead. Private, conditional, real. If the details spill, even in whispers, then that's your ending. Not with a bang, with a door that looks open from the street and is bolted from the inside. For now, all that remains is the image. A car easing out, taillights fading, London's evening swallowing the moment. Maybe it was a step. Maybe it was a courtesy. Either way, it happened. And in a house where silence has become strategy, that single fact, the door opened, counts for more than any caption you'll read tomorrow.